Okay, so I guess this is part two of proper sentence structure. I kind of wanted to start by picking up a little bit from the last video. Um, I mentioned that there is no grammatical answer to being able to pick apart a sentence and saying yes, this is proper, that this isn't. You have to have that main idea, the complete idea. That's the word that you want to focus on, is complete. And the reason is because if you look at the examples I have here, my cat is being cranky. So we have a subject and we have our linking verb again. This is a complete idea. This period is perfectly, where it's supposed to be. It's doing its job. It's ending that idea, that one idea. But I can write one word and put a period after it. Go. That is technically a complete idea. That is an independent clause. It is a sentence, and it's grammatically correct. And when you break this down, this would be a verb. It's an action verb. It's a command. We call this type of sentence imperative, and an imperative sentence either ends in a period or it might end in an exclamation point, depending on how you say it. But the simplest version of that is usually just that one verb. You're giving a command to someone. On paper, often, depending on how you use it, it's not very descriptive, but in speech, I could be pointing to the door, I could be pointing to the window, I could be pointing to another area of the room. Who knows? I'm giving that command to go. Technically, that is correct. So you cannot just simply rely on, oh, I need a subject and I need a verb. Most of the time, that's what you have. But it could be something as simple as that. And there's many different versions of this. You're talking to your dog and you say sit. Talking to maybe your child and you say please eat. Okay. Um, those are imperative sentences and they don't follow the same rule. What I have here, then, other than that, is 6 sentences. And since this is part 2, I figured we would start to advance a little bit in terms of sentence structure. Now, sentence structure doesn't simply have to be that one main idea or one complete idea. Sometimes you can have 2. There are different ways here to combine ideas, and there's certain punctuation that follows then. I have, my cat is being cranky, period. Sentence 2 is, my dog is being goofy, period. Well, if I wanted to combine them for a variety, a little bit of variety in the way our sentence structure is showing up in, say, a larger piece like a short story or a vocab story or an essay. I don't want all of my sentences to be simple sentences where, we have one subject, one verb, and then a period. One subject, one verb, and then a period. We want that variety. So I can combine this by saying, my cat is being cranky. And then I put, and my dog is being goofy. Now, this is what we would call a compound sentence, and the one thing that is missing right now is this very important comma. Okay? Now, the comma is necessary because it takes the place of one of these periods. The one that was up here now is replaced as a comma. The comma no longer says, okay, we are done, ready to move on to a new idea. It says, we are pausing and we're not finished yet. Okay? The end, that final end, that finality, doesn't occur until we get to the period at the end. And that has a lot to do with future grammar lessons, but the biggest thing is when you're writing and when you are reading, how you write and how you read, reading especially, these punctuation marks play a huge role in that. My cat is being cranky, and my dog is being goofy. Okay, when I say goofy, the the uh, the intonation of my voice changes. You know, the volume changes. All of that stuff um, is really determined by these punctuation marks. And sometimes that's not easy to get right away. It just depends on your reading level, how much experience you have. Um, Whereas if I was to go back up to these ones, it's very simple. I can see this ahead of time and it says, my cat is being cranky. That drop happens right here instead of way back here in this compound sentence. If we break this down, we have an independent clause, that means one main idea, and we have a second independent clause. That's what a compound sentence is. It's an IC plus an IC. And there's usually a conjunction between it, like and, or you can have what's known as a semicolon in between it. If you have the semicolon, you don't have the conjunction. If you have the conjunction, you have a conjunction, and then you use that comma as well. Now, people get confused sometimes, and they say, well, you know, not all sentences have that comma. Well, it depends. Let's say we went back up to these two sentences and said, my cat is, instead of cranky, my cat is being goofy. Okay? The second sentence, my dog is being goofy. Okay? So then when we change this, the new sentence, just for variety, we're going to make what's known as a compound subject. And I'm going to shorten it. My cat and dog are being goofy. Okay? In this case, we have two subjects, and they're combined by a conjunction. Notice there is no comma between them, because the comma's job is to separate the independent clauses in a compound sentence. We can't say, my cat, period. That's not an independent clause. We have one independent clause here. Technically, this is still a simple sentence. It just has a compound subject and one verb, because they're both doing the same thing. How is this helpful? Well, obviously, you're shortening up what was two simple sentences saying the same thing into one, and that is just better writing. And it's more enjoyable reading than reading, my cat is being goofy, my dog is being goofy, my mom is being goofy. You know, that would be very short, choppy, and repetitive. On the other hand, you can have the same thing take place if you have one subject and that subject is doing two different things. So you have a compound subject in this one. Now you're going to have one subject but have a compound predicate. So let's just choose cat again. My cat, here's our subject. What do we want the cat to do? We can pick two things. My cat is eating and drinking. Period. Again, we have one simple sentence, one main idea. Only one subject is doing two separate things. Okay, so this would be known as a compound predicate. So these are very different than compared to that compound sentence, because the compound sentence has this comma, which takes the place of the period, and it has two separate independent clauses there.